in, everybody? It's How Good Monday evening here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Robbie Lastella aboard with you alongside my friends Christian Prosha, Drew Shula. You're listening on 102.9 The Game, probably on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you find your source of audio. But if you are listening on 102.9, thank you for tuning in. This is the Lastella Report. Christian, Drew, how you doing?
Doing well, Robbie. Thank you for having me as always. It's always a pleasure to be on the Lastella Report. And like Tobey said, we're going to win the day.
Absolutely. I think I've won the day so far. It's always a great night to be on the Lastella Report. A lot of NBA action we'll be talking about, some college athletics. And it's going to be a great episode tonight. Very excited.
For sure. It's the end of me and Christian's travel with FAU for this season. Softball, unfortunately, will not be advancing to the super regional round. We were out up in Gainesville this weekend for that. And that's it for travel this season. It's been a fun run, starting for football season in Clemson and finishing out in the Swamp. I've been all over the country with FAU athletics this season, so it's been a blast. I liked Gainesville. I want to go back to a football game. I haven't been up to a game at the Swamp since FAU played UF, and I think it was 2022. But we were there for softball. Game. We'll start. We'll talk about the weekend as a whole. We got there. It was good weather on Friday, I believe. Yeah, Friday. We no rain going up there. But the game itself on Friday, it was a bit slow paced. It was a pitcher's duel on Monday night. It was Gabby Sacco versus Olivia Lackey, as we talked about last week. It was 1-0 in that ball game for a long time. FAU almost broke through in those late innings in game one, but they just weren't able to. Lackey throwing a complete game shutout. Lackey's incredible, as we learned this weekend. She threw, I think, she pitched against us. She pitched against FGCU on Saturday. Then she pitched again against UF on Saturday, and then she pitched again against FGCU on Saturday. So that's like 3 games in a row. And I'm sure she pitched on Sunday too. I didn't catch that game. But Christian, how was day one for you before we got into our rain delay on Saturday? How was shooting UF softball first and then FAU?
It was a great opportunity to be able to go out there. Like you said, Robbie, it was just an incredible experience. The atmosphere was, for a softball tournament, the atmosphere was incredible. The place was packed out. It was primarily blue and orange, but that's all right because I feel like all the 3 other visiting teams, they traveled well. South Alabama had a good turnout. FAU had a great turnout. And FGCU had a good turnout as far as fans, parents, friends. And it was good for our team, especially being in Gainesville, because a lot of our team is based in North Florida. A lot of them grew up in the Orlando, Apopka area, all the way up to St. Augustine, a couple Tally. So it was good for the girls to be able to have friends, family, and close supporters in the stands being able to watch them play.
Yeah.
No, yeah, go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, no, it looked that way on TV. A lot of very passionate softball fans. There was 4 passionate fan bases there. Unfortunately, didn't come out in our favor on the field product wise, but yeah, no, it looked like FAU Nation really showed out.
Yeah, it was a really solid turnout. It's a benefit to play in Florida, but it's also kind of a negative because, as we saw, FGCU rode out, UF rode out, and those fans, they get into it, man. They're heckling the umps, and it kind of cleared out a little bit on Saturday because I mentioned the rain delay was in effect. The FAU FGCU game was supposed to start at 3, didn't start until about 7 o'clock. Long day of softball for FAU. I'm sure their schedules got thrown off and everything. But game 2 for FAU, that one was one that was right in their hands. They got on the board early, which is huge. They went up 1-0 in the first inning in that one. In game 1 against South Alabama, they had the opportunity to get a first inning runner on base and right off the bat, and then she was called out due to being out of the batter's box. And in game 2, they got at it right away. They got a 2-out double, and then they scored her right away on a single. And that lead held for a while. Trinity Schlotterbeck was going pitch for pitch against Bonilla, who was FGCU's ace. And then in the late innings, FGCU finally broke through. Right, they got their bunts going, they got their stolen bases going. They strung hits together, and then they tied it in the sixth on a single up the middle, and in the seventh they finally hit that big. The whole game Trinity Schlotterbeck was keeping them in the infield. I think until that point she only allowed even 3 balls to leave the infield, and none of them were extra base hits. There are 2 flyouts and a ground ball, and then it just comes down to it that FGCU smacks a double deep in the left field. FAU's outfielders were playing up. There was no chance they were getting to that one, and that plated 2. And in the bottom of the inning, FAU did what they did in game 1. They fought. This time they scored a run, and Cam Moreland almost snuck that ball up the middle to end the game. But a great play by FGCU, dove on second base to end it. After the game, everyone was smiling. There was no one was down, which I think is very important. It's tough. I'm sure Coach Clark didn't want to go 0-2 in that one. A lot of potential on this season, and have it end without winning one. That sucks. But you have to try to spin this in a positive way, and I think she did. Cam in that last press conference, Christian, you can attest, she didn't seem, that was her last game ever, and she didn't seem too down about it. And
Cam
I think
Jackson,
that speaks
not Cam Moreland.
Yeah, Cam Jackson, she was in there. But it's I think it speaks to the culture of this program that no one was sad after that one. And I think going forward, I think this team will be all right.
Yeah, I agree, Robbie. I think that, like you said, this team is definitely going to be all right. Also, piggybacking off of what you said, definitely not the most fun way to go out. However, just being able to have the opportunity to go out, play in an NCAA super regional tournament is huge, especially for a program in year 2 of a new regime. I think that this team has a very bright future. You've got some elite players that still have a lot of remaining eligibility. You've got 8 incoming freshmen, and like Coach Clark said, they're going to make some friends in the portal the same way that they did last year, being able to bring in girls from Kentucky, Maryland, all over the damn country. All of these Power 5 players were playing in Boca this year, and Trinity Schlotterbeck was a huge pickup for FAU. She should be a conference player of the year, in my opinion. She was a unanimous first team all conference, and she was elite on the mound, or in the circle technically, and with the bat in her hands. And I think that she's going to be missed, to say the least. And then another thing is losing 2 catchers is going to not be fun. But yeah, this team is going to be just fine. To speak on the culture, they're a very happy, peppy team. When the game mattered the most, they were the loudest. And FAU softball, they rise to the occasion when it comes to pressures on. It was just Saturday night, some things didn't go our way, and we drove back on Sunday morning. But this is going to be a team that is going to be a AAC powerhouse for as long as Jordan Clark and company are behind the wheel.
And I agree. You mentioned the 8 incoming freshmen. You lose Schlotterbeck, you lose Kate DeLeon, you lose Callie Kildo, who was a pinch runner from Arkansas. Didn't play too much towards the end of the season, but you mentioned those P5 players coming in. They found different ways to use all these girls, and I think it's a test to Jordan Clark how they can get these players in here, but the egos are never too big. At least that's what it seems like. Presley Liebrick, another senior, Zoe Jones, Cam Jackson, Becca Jones, Holly Peluso, Meg Mullen, Cam Pursuti. I think though, all of those girls, they all kind of mentored the next group, and combining that with the 8 incoming freshmen and portal movements, I think they'll be all right. And so going forward though, we talked about this earlier before we hopped on. Personally, I think this program isn't, I'm not saying they need to demolish the stadium and build them what they have at Wichita State or UF, but I do think there's room for upgrades for this program, and I understand at FAU there's other programs that need upgrades. Basketball being at the top of the list, especially in terms of like entire stadium upgrades. That's going to be a lot of money, but you cannot ignore the success of this program and the fact that it's if it's not basketball, it's softball right now in terms of athletic success for programs for FAU. I mean, last season they almost were an at-large bid. Successful season, didn't have enough last season, but they get it this year. That's 2 straight successful seasons. And Coach Clark came in last year. They put the pads on the wall. They got the upgraded scoreboard. But now it's time for more. It's time to make this program a top contender in softball, because why not? Why not? The stadium is solid. It's not the greatest, but it's solid enough to host a regional. You could definitely, there's over 1,000 seats in that stadium, and if you include the berm, especially more. So you can host a regional here, but expand the bullpens a little bit. Give them pitch track technology for scouting. In the batting cages, get the cameras you need to track their bat speed. Do different things so when a girl is choosing between Arkansas and FAU for softball, and Arkansas may have the historic aspect and be the traditional choice, FAU can come and say, yeah, we're up and coming and we're investing in our program. You don't have to waste $25 million. It wouldn't be a waste. I mean, you put $25 million to softball, that's more than they need. But give them $500,000, give them $1 million, give them something to try to just keep expanding on what's already been done. The stadium doesn't need to be demolished. They don't need to build a practice facility. Just small things that matter, whether it's travel things, increased nutrition, whatever they need to try to be a top-tier program. I think it's time for FAU Athletics to invest in softball. And that may mean it comes before an indoor practice facility for football. Personally, if they do it fast enough, it's not something that needs to delay the possibility of an IPF for football. Obviously, I don't think softball upgrades should be placed in front of basketball stadium upgrades currently, but with the funding that's coming in for basketball, there's no reason why somebody in athletics for FAU cannot fundraise for softball at the same time and try to get them going at least on a similar timeline, maybe after the stadium. I know Drew, we talked about this. You're not the biggest fan of softball stadium upgrades, but I think that it's something FAU should consider.
Let me clear the air. I'm a huge fan of upgrades for softball. However, I feel that we definitely need to put our foot forward on a few different sports before. I feel like basketball's behind for the success that they've had. I feel like football is right there to being like elite facilities, but they don't have the indoor practice facilities. So, Coach Herman, any coach that's here, they have to change up their practice schedule. They have to be bright and early in the morning, even if maybe they don't want to. Maybe they want to be a later practice or something, or they just want to use, not every time you want to be outside. It just limits kind of your preparation a little bit. But I think basketball, if there's really a money tightness, there's really a restraint. I think that basketball should definitely come first. But softball's deserving of just like baseball and softball. I think both are deserving. I just think we need to get ahead on basketball, or else who knows? Maybe we. And I'm not even going to say it, but Coach Shakis might not be very happy if we're making no progress, because we definitely have the ability to bring in recruits. We have the ability to win. We've seen it here. So don't piss off the new coach. Basketball deserves it, and the fans deserve it. Us students. You guys are credentialed, but last year I wasn't. You'd have to get there an hour beforehand just to get in the game for basketball. I think it would be really cool, and I think the students deserve it. Maybe we double the stadium capacity, arena capacity, and make it 6,000 rather than 3,000. It'll definitely fit. So that's what I think.
I'm going to be completely honest. I would seriously prioritize softball and baseball renovations, and honestly the swim facility renovations. Like everything behind the Ellie, everything in like the little Oxley Center, like kind of Bermuda Triangle of stuff that nobody really goes to. Baseball, softball, swim, they all deserve upgrades because all of those facilities are outdated. I would prioritize those over an indoor practice facility for football, full honesty. Yes, yes, having an IPF would be nice to where you could practice at any time, not worrying about melting during practice or weather, like any inclement weather or
Rain, yeah.
unfavorable weather. But I do believe that basketball needs some renovations, whether it's a better practice facility, because they should not be practicing on either our game court or the one that our friends are doing IM hoops on.
Yeah.
And however, stadium renovations wise, I'm personally in favor of FAU kind of keeping the stadium capacity for basketball the same that it is, because all year we have heard from every team that comes into the LE how big of a home court advantage we have, how we echo off of the walls, how for 3,000 people in a high school gym, I'm quoting Twitter, I'm not saying that we do, because honestly our facility is a lot nicer than any high
It's
school
about
in South Florida.
3,500. About 3,500 in that high school gym, Christian. Come on now.
Yeah, but for 3,500 fans, we are doing just fine. And the biggest renovation for me for basketball was 2 years ago when we first expanded the LE a little more and we changed the lighting in there, because real ones remember when the LE looked orange. That
Oh
was
yeah, no.
ugly. That was the worst.
That was
Me
cafeteria.
as a photographer, before I was even enrolled at FAU, I was covering FAU athletics. I did not want to cover FAU basketball because of how terrible my shots were coming out. Like I
100%.
covered two FAU games the year that we went to the Final Four, so 2 seasons ago, and one of those games was the Final Four. Like the fact that I even got credentialed for that game is still surprising to me, full honesty. But
Me
I
too.
No, like you were saying, that sunlight was something that completely changed the game for the stadium. It made it look so much like better when they took it away. Is what I'm
yes,
trying
with
to
the
say.
blue light, it is beautiful. It is eye appealing on television, and it is eye appealing on a professional camera. If you look,
Hmm.
if you look at the difference between anybody on FAU Creative or my photos, night and day. So I would just like to give a shout out to everybody who's been able to be around for all of that, because as a content team as a whole, we have just improved every time we step onto that court, and I'm proud of all of them.
Yeah, 100%. And so, like, with that, so you know what they could manage the money correctly. You know, Brian White talks about FAU being an everything school, right? So with basketball and softball right now, you put them two at the front, and then baseball as well. I mean, baseball arguably could be ahead of softball. I understand the
I
so
agree.
the baseball
I agree
renovations
with
are planned. So like I did kind of overthink that before, but baseball renovations right now it's tough because the success isn't there. But there's an argument that if they did have those upgrades, if they weren't running to the porta potty out there in left field or wherever it's at, there's an argument that maybe they'd get different types of recruits in that aren't considering FAU right now. It's an argument to be had, and all of those facilities, like you said, swim, softball, the Oxley, baseball. I don't know what else is back there. Beach volleyball. All of those
beach
could
volleyball.
yeah, all of those could use upgrades. And we've been around. We've done a little bit of traveling recently. We went up to Michigan. We went to Wichita State. We went to UF. We've been to the AAC tournament. We've seen all these different facilities, and in my opinion, like looking at Wichita State's baseball and softball facility, obviously they don't have a football team to put money to, but it is beautiful. The way it looks, it's a good structure, and I think there's a map to look at other schools who have seriously invested in baseball and softball and try to kind of follow their lead a little bit without going full force. And because you're not going to have you're not going to have the Coke budget that Wichita State has to put towards FAU softball and baseball. But if FAU wants to be an everything school, the everything has to be everywhere, and that includes stadium, that includes NIL, that includes facilities. Everything has to be, and it's a progress, yes, But softball can't get ignored because football needs an IPF. Same way baseball can't be ignored because basketball needs a practice facility. Same way swim can't be ignored because softball needs a bullpen cameras. Everything needs to be assessed. It's just a matter of prioritizing things for FAU, and that's what's gonna come down to Brian White. He's got Coach Jacobs in here now, and Coach Clark and Herman in football, and all these different coaches who are having success. And so now it's facility time, in my opinion, for FAU, and we'll see how that develops.
I'd
Yeah, Christian.
also before we move on, I'd also like to touch on the coaching staff, like for all the sports, because
Yeah.
something that FAU is really doing well is they're bringing coaches from schools, like from higher major schools than FAU. They're able to bring in Coach Clark, who was at Ohio State, Herman, who coached at multiple P5s,
Yep.
Dusty, who before was at UF, and then Coach Jacobs, who was coming from Baylor. Like these are all guys and girls who are coaching at the highest level of college athletics, especially in their respective school or their respective sports. So this is what it took to win. This is what it took to win over recruits here. This is what we want to make it successful here. This is the blueprint of how to do it, and just use different schools, like you said, as the as kind of like I just said, like as a blueprint to make this happen. Like I'll touch on Wichita State. Dude, you remember I literally said that I thought Wichita State's baseball facility was a football stadium. Like
Yeah.
that spot was nice. Wichita State had an amazing athletic village. Like all of their facilities look great, and from the naked eye, you wouldn't expect that in Wichita, Kansas. Like you wouldn't expect that
You got
from
money.
from Wichita State, but then it's also what the hell else do they got out there? I
They
might
got
as
money.
well go Shockers, baby.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think the state of our athletic department as a whole is trending in the correct direction. And it has been since Lane Kiffin was affiliated with football.
Mhm.
Since we had the Lane train out there, that sly dog Lane, he's like that really got FAU exposure that we needed. And then even into his last year of the seniors that just ran out of eligibility for football, those dudes, they've like he was getting some guys out there who, and then we had the Taggart era. We don't like talking about that. And then we don't like, and then like I said, Dusty and Herman and Coach Clark, everybody as a whole is just elevating. Every team, it feels like, just continues to build off of the success of other teams across campus. Because we haven't even talked about, like I said, Spirit, Cheer, and Dance, who won national championship last year and then got runner up this year. We have a golfer in nationals. Like we, as a whole, our athletic department is trending in the right direction. So I'd like to give a quick shout out to Brian White and his staff. Good job, B Dub. Y'all are doing the right stuff. And also, Brian White was in Gainesville and he was very loud at the games. Just wanted to let everybody know that Brian White was in attendance at softball.
100%. He was out there. Michael Graffin was out there. Sean Gorley from marketing. All these people from the athletic department they made the trip, and they weren't just they weren't there on business. They were there to support their Owls, setting a good example. Going up to Gainesville and supporting the Owls in softball. It may seem like a small thing, but it's huge. Just any single person making noise out there for that program is awesome. So shout out to them, like Christian was saying, and with the facilities, it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but it'll any type of acknowledgement towards softball. It doesn't have to be a ton of money, but in my opinion, this offseason they deserve some type of upgrade. Whether it is a something in the outfield bullpen, whether it's something in the batting cages, whether it's I don't know, a better chartered plane or something for when they travel. Whatever it is, get them something to make them feel appreciated, because winning in Paradise is huge. Getting an at-large bid is huge. They won the first AAC regular season title, albeit a shared one, but at some point winning has to matter. It has to matter in terms of, yes, they're getting national attention, but what is it? We've seen how much the school has embraced basketball, and I hopped on this softball bandwagon pretty late, but uh, they need recognition from the school, and I think it'll come. And with basketball, they're already getting that recognition. So, and especially from outside the school in terms of money. So I think basketball upgrades will come, and I just hope to see softball come kind of on the same timeline. An IPF would change the game for football. And we just need a $25 million donation. Businesses in Boca, if they invest in it, that would be huge, because they would be the ones who really funded the football program, right? Eleanor Baldwin's funding the basketball program, but you build that IPF, you get your name plastered everywhere next to Howard's for FAU football. So we'll see how it develops over the next couple of years. They're working on the Oxley right now, which is in my opinion something, it's where everyone goes if you're an athlete. So that's another important thing, whether it be the weight facilities, the nutrition center, all that stuff. So things are getting upgraded, but it's a process. And so just wanted to explain that, in my opinion, softball should get some upgrades soon, but we'll see how it all unfolds. We're closing in on the 9:30 break here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. We're going to take a quick. Yes.
So get
Yeah,
that
yeah,
IPF built now.
yeah. So all right. Well, thank you, Steve. I see that. So we're going to take a quick break here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. When we come back, we're talking FAU basketball recruits and some Birmingham Southern baseball, because they're making a run in the D3 baseball tournament. We'll be right back, and when we come back, enjoy some FAU basketball news.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad. Your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back, everybody. 9:33 here Monday night on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Robbie Lastella, Christian Proscia, Drew Shula here with you, closing out the 9 to 10 hour. As we mentioned before the break, last night, or really yesterday afternoon, FAU landed a recruit, another big man, first big man really of the recruit season, Matas Vokitaitis. I think I said that right. If not, I'm sorry. I'll learn the correct pronunciation hopefully soon once we get these players here. June 1st is when summer practices start. Hopefully everyone will be in paradise. But the big man, the 7'1" center from Lithuania, played for Žalgiris Kaunas in Lithuania. He played for their second team mainly, put up 12.5 points per game, 8.6 rebounds, and close to an assist per game for their second team across 42 games. Also played for their main team for one game. And so he was up and down. It would have been up and down the rest of the season between their number one team and their number two squad. He's coming to paradise next season. We could very well see him in action over the summer for U20 action team Lithuania in FIBA ball. But now 2 roster spots left for FAU after the addition of Vokitaitis. Him and along Montas Koshanas, both playing for Žalgiris Kaunas, by the way. Koshanas playing for their youth team, and Vokitaitis playing for their second team and first team. But now they're the 2 big men on this roster. 2 spots left. Baba Miller still mulling the NBA. Not sure if he's coming to paradise or not. Drew Christian. Obviously, Coach OKK mentioned backup point guard as the other position to fill here for sure, alongside a big man. Is Vokitaitis in your minds somebody that is enough to fill that big man position on his own? Or do you think they need a Baba Miller? Do they need to go out and get somebody with NCAA experience? Because in my personal opinion is Vokitaitis could play. He could start right away. He's a little skinny. But you throw him out there as a freshman, he might lose a couple battles, but he gets that experience. It's possible. But I do think it would be beneficial, even if they do decide to start him, to go out and get a center with NCAA experience. Doesn't have to be the most glorious center. Doesn't have to be a guy who was at Kentucky. Doesn't whatever. But it's just somebody to help him out. Drew Christian, thoughts?
I agree. I believe that we do need as much as it sucks that we only now have 2 scholarships available, which is not a bad problem to have, gentlemen. Let's look back about 2.5 months ago. I think every FAU fan was ready to pop a cyanide pill because it was just everybody was leaving and nobody knew what was going to happen. So if we look now, this is not a bad problem to have, and I would just like to stress that. But I do believe we need a center with NCAA experience, especially one that may be a couple years older than our European friends, because at the end of the day, they're still 18, 17, 18-year-olds. We're getting 3 18U international players coming in. And these guys, it's going to take a minute to get them bigger, stronger, faster. And that's just anything when it comes with an incoming freshman. It's a learning curve from high school to college is a learning curve. It doesn't matter what sport, what level. Hell, it could be D3. From high school to D3, it's still a learning curve. So getting at I'll say high major. I'll appease you, Coach Jacobs. Getting at a high major like FAU, I think we definitely need a dude who's been able to play at that level, which is why I've been very adamant of we need to throw the house at Baba Miller and get him out there. I think that and more importantly, just depth as a whole is huge for me. I think that we need depth because the second somebody gets hurt, you can see it took guys like Nick Boyd and Giancarlo Rosado pretty much the whole year to get back to where they were. If not, like they still looked like they skipped a beat. As much as I hate to say it, they didn't look the same for the majority of the year. And then, like we saw with Vlad, when Vlad was at Texas Tech, he wasn't anything special. But after being able to be in a college weight room, learn college systems, get bigger, stronger, mature physically as a man, but also mature college basketball IQ, it just builds upon itself, and now we have the Vlad Golden that we know and love, our beautiful Russian, who's unfortunately in Ann Arbor. Bro, I miss Vlad so much. I'm not even gonna lie. Vlad is my favorite person ever. Like I used to just see him on the breezeway and just give him a hug. Like I miss him so much.
My beautiful Russian, quote unquote, Christian. That LOL.
Please never say LOL in a sentence again.
I was just trying to not say you're a weirdo, Christian, but I guess I'll say it anyway.
I'm man enough to admit that. Anyway, Drew, what would you like to say?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about your favorite Russians, so let's get back to business. But
This is
Robbie, to
unfortunately
answer
not
your
vodka.
question, I think I agree what you said. We can throw and how do we pronounce this last name?
Voki, we're just gonna say Voki Tatis at the moment. I'm sure that's not
Fernando
Vokishaitis.
Tatis, got it.
It's definitely not, but that's a way to remember it. Voki Tatis. We
It's
can.
definitely the K is probably like Voshi.
Yeah,
if I had to guess.
Voki Tayatas.
That's why I just said our European friends. You can't mess that up.
Our
I
Lithuanian
I tried before I let you go, Drew, but I tried to listen to like a Lithuanian broadcast. No help. None.
Yeah, it makes sense. But Vokia Tiatas. I think we can throw him out there at center. But yeah, there's a learning curve that it's unavoidable. Whether it takes him the 4 months he's on campus before games start. Maybe he has some miraculous, just crazy development. But in all likelihood, he's probably not gonna be an all conference center right away this year, just based on it's a tough, different game in college. So yeah, I mean, bring me Baba Miller because he brings a different skill set too to the center room, the group of bigs, where he kind of plays out as a stretch kind of too, which I kind of really like because I think it'll with the pick and roll game, the just setting screens, top of the key is going to be really valuable, and him being able to stretch the court is really valuable. Obviously, in the NBA, a lot of bigs have to do that in order to run their offense. But yeah, and then the backup guard is the last spot. I'm excited to see that. A guy that I really think could be perfect for that, Mike Forrest. No, but I wish. But yeah, we need a player like that, and that's super cliche. Like, oh wow, one of the best players in FAU basketball history, a guard from South Florida who his teammates loved so much that they were chanting his name after he had a pretty good game against Tennessee in the Sweet 16. It wasn't like he dropped 30 points. He dropped like 10. But his teammates loved him so much they were chanting that because he kind of got out of his groove. But a gel guy, a guy that's not selfish, a guy that could spread the ball, and he's not going to score as much as Leland Walker or Kiki Tandy, but the offense won't miss a whole lot because he does other things really well, and can score in his own right. So I think a player like that is going to be really big. Where we look for him, we've looked all over Europe is what we've done so far, and a little bit in the South for other players. AJ Staten, Leland Walker, all of them. Kiki Tandy, that's in Alabama, and then Caleb Glenn in Louisville, Kentucky. So a lot of players down south we've been grabbing not too far from campus. Where we find this guy, who knows? Maybe it's a conference below us. That's where we found Kiki Tandy. He was an all-conference player, but maybe we grab like a Jackson State guard that just wants to play for a better team in a better conference. Something like that. I don't know, but where we find him, I'm not sure, but we'll find him.
Or we could get future NBA Hall of Famer Selton Miguel to flip from Maryland and get him in Boca.
He's long gone. Did you see Selton Miguel? Someone tweeted out, is he going to finish his project now? And he like begged the guy to
I was about to say, supposedly he ripped that dude.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Because when you transfer mid-year, you're like not really leaving the school. It was just, bro, please do the homework.
It was just a joke. It was just,
Buddy was just joking on social media, and supposedly Selton Miguel ripped him for that. So,
dude, no one leaves until they're done with school. So,
yeah, which is why our guys are still working out on campus.
Yeah, with Selton Miguel and that guy, what I don't get is, why would you not do that project before you enter the portal? I feel like that's just one way to make sure no one at USF likes you anymore. The dude that put that out caught a lot of flack on Twitter, like you said. Not the best way to go out.
Yeah, and
private right after that.
And the best part about it was one of the replies was like, yeah, that's the dude in the group that was really not banking on doing any of the work and getting the A.
Rip. Hey, but Christian, you mentioned the depth on FAU basketball being an issue last year. I actually don't think that'll be an issue this year, because I was sitting here before trying to map out some starting lineups, and there is a ton of depth right now. I mean, in my opinion, this is what I came up with, and it's probably wrong. And that's the beauty, I think, in this team, is that there is so much depth. There's probably 13 different guys that could possibly start if you really value these international recruits. But what I came up with is a starting lineup of AJ Stanton McCray, Leland Walker at the 1 and 2, Caleb Glenn at the 3, Trey Carroll at the 4, and Matas Vokitatis at the moment at center. And then off the bench, you get Kiki Tandy playing point guard at the moment. We'll see if that's an adjustment for him, if he can be a combo guard. You put Max at the German sharpshooter guy at the guard. He's a guy that people, another overseas player, but he's 20, I believe, maybe 19, gonna be 20 at the start of the season. But he's a 6'6" guard. He can play a little bit, down. He could possibly play at the 3 or the 2. And so in my opinion, you put him out in that starting lineup at the 2. Then you give Jaquel Powell an option. Put him at the 3 in that second unit. Those two are both a little smaller, 6'5", 6'6" range, but you play them together, in my opinion, and I think they could work. I think they could combine at the 2 and the 3 and really hold their own defensively. And offensively, they'd be more than fine, because Max can kind of be off ball a little bit, and Jaquel, if he gets the ball, he can be he could kind of be a 2 guard at the 3, in my opinion. And then Montas, Koshanas at the 4, and then that backup big that they're still looking at, throw him at the 5. And then as reserves, you still have Devin Vanterpool, Amar Diop, and then the backup point guard that they're also still looking. So, Devin being a reserve off his redshirt sophomore year, I felt a little disrespectful putting him there, because there's so much potential but there's also only so many minutes to go around. And to be honest, Devin's been in the boot, so we don't know if he's been 100% yet. We'll see, in my opinion, if Devin and Jaquel kind of split time at the same role next year, or how they kind of fit in, because there's a lot of scoring coming in for FAU right now. And these two guys were big-time scorers in high school themselves, redshirted last year. It'll be very interesting to see how they play a role. But my point is this team has a ton of depth and a ton of different scorers all around. I'm very intrigued to see how these last two roster spots fill out. But you guys kind of in agreement that this team has almost too much depth, which isn't a problem, but it's kind of like, wow, how are they going to build this starting lineup and keep everyone happy?
I'd also like to give a shout out to Devin and Jaquel, because Devin, Jaquel, and Trey Carroll, because those guys were loyal. Obviously, Devin and Jaquel really couldn't go anywhere because were basically only they would be hitting the portal with huddle film, as opposed to like real NCAA film. But like a guy like Trey, he decided to buy in early, and he's very vocal on social media about the future of this program. And I love that for Trey, because Trey is a leader and you can really tell that. And then also Devin and Jaquel. I've been so excited to watch Devin and Jaquel play for like the longest time. Like since like I got like on campus and I got to like become friends with them, because we're in the same grad class. I see them all the time. We have mutual friends. And like my best friend on campus literally lived like right next door to them in Parliament. So I've gotten to know them and got closer with them, and I'm like, dude, I'm so ready to watch these guys play, because I know what they're going to do. They are going to be elite players, and they're going, at least 1 year that they're in this conference, they'll be an all-conference caliber player. Just wait.
I agree.
Yeah, back to your lineup prediction. I actually have a little bit of shakeup compared to you, which I don't know if I don't know if Christian's going to disagree. I don't know if Robbie maybe agrees, thinks it's possible, but stays with his side. But I think that actually Leland and Kiki play together. When we were talking to Obum, that's kind of the vibe I got when we brought up like, how are all these guys were scoring 15 points a game at their schools. He was like, yeah, they'll each be doing that together. So I'm like, oh, I kind of have. And then we brought the backup point guard. I was like, yeah, I kind of have a feeling they're going to play together. So I think Leland, Walker, and Kiki play the 1 and 2, where probably Leland's more the ball handler. And then I feel like at the 3 is where AJ plays, AJ Staten McCray, because he's 6'5", 6'6". He's got those really long arms, good defender. I really think he fits in perfect there. And then so we talked about AJ and his defensiveness, like his defensive mentality, how good he was at that at Samford. He's going to be one guy that saves us this year from all this chaos with this guy needs to score, this guy needs to score. This other guy is going to be the unsung hero, and I'm calling it right now, Caleb Glenn. Because Caleb Glenn at Louisville, he played, he didn't average a whole lot of points, and he's not going to do that here. He's not going to be, maybe he proves me wrong, but I just don't see it. I don't see him being like a 15-point-per-game player, but this guy hustles. This guy plays with so much heart. He's clearly the biggest hustler on the field, on the court, and he is going to get offensive rebounds. He's going to put the ball back up. He's going to save so many possessions for us. I think with his defensiveness too, he's able to guard. He's fast enough and athletic enough to guard some guys smaller than him, and he's strong. He's strong and physical enough to guard the guys bigger than him. And then at the 5 is, I think, if we land Baba Miller, which I expect, I think he's just still kind of weighing out the NBA, get feedback kind of opportunity. That's where I think he's going to play. And then, you talked about the backups. I'm pretty much in agreement with that. I think Amar and Diop probably is a little bit better than a reserve. I don't know, because he played in the highest academy, in the NBA academy, and he played in the highest league at Senegal. I kind of expect he's a little more FAU ready than most would imagine. But I think Max Langenfeld is going to be a baller. I think this guy is ready to contribute right away at FAU. We've seen Elijah Martin be good right away. We've seen Mike Forrest. I think nothing stopping Max Langenfeld. This guy played in a really good German league and 23 points per game You have to be really damn good to average 23 points per game anywhere. If he averaged 23 points per game in Conference USA, he's playing at Kentucky right now. So I really do think that I think Max is going to be a bucket right away. Whether people see it that way or not, that's just my opinion.
Leland.
Bro. And I can't take Christian seriously. I try to. Oh man,
impossible.
Had to give you all a little giggle.
We can never take you off the Lastella Report, Christian, because you're here for comedic relief and also analysis. So, an invaluable member of the team.
And I'm also like the only photographer on this staff, so y'all definitely do.
Yeah, okay, but my iPhone 13 Pro Max it's pretty good.
Yeah, and closing out here though on FAU basketball real quick. That like Drew, I can't disagree with your lineup because I don't even know if my lineup's correct. There's so many different variables and so many different players that it'll be very interesting to see how, number one, the lineups work out, but how everyone's going to be able to contribute, because Jaquel and Devin didn't come back off a red shirt to not play, and so those are two guys that are going to need minutes. And so unless these international guys are sitting, I think FAU could have one of the deepest rotations in the country. And I may be wrong and they end up playing 8 deep, 7 deep, whatever. But at this point, I think there's a possibility that we could see like a Penny Hardaway type situation where they're subbing 5 deep 4 minutes into the game, 6 minutes into the game. So we shall see. And
Robbie, I'd just like to talk about, because especially with like, that was one of the things that made FAU stand out the Final Four year, is the depth of rotation that Dusty was bringing out back then. Because like you said, a couple minutes into the game, he's bringing 4 or 5 out, and he's really just keeping everybody fresh. And we talked about Mikey Forrest. I love talking about Mikey Forrest. That's another dude that I love watching him play. He was such a grinder, man. Like, that dude was awesome. But Trey Carroll was going to step into that Michael Forrest role of just that senior leader that's seen it all, has been with the team since they were trash, got good, and then just lifting all of these other dudes up and like elevating while also probably coming off the bench. Michael Forrest was our 6th, 7th option the Final 4 years. So I think that having a guy like him, where it's not selfish play, it's selfless, we not me type mentality, that's what we were really missing last year. Because honestly, we had a lot of pretty boy ball. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I now that the season's over, they're all gone. None of them watch this. I'll be man enough to say it. There was a lot of pretty boy ball, whereas dudes taking shots that shouldn't have been taken. Like, why for the first 8 games of the year was there always a Brennan Laurent corner 3? Bro, all you can do is dunk. Please do not shoot a 3 ball. Like, so that just gets back to where we rebuilt the team, and we have that one core catalyst where he's going to be the glue holding this team together.
Yeah, I agree.
Brennan Laurent shot a 3 against Northwestern, and he missed it.
I'm well aware, because I may have screamed an expletive with why the expletive did he just shoot that? And the worst part was it was winding down in the second half. They were just grasping for straws at that point.
I just want to say, Christian, you said they don't tune into the show. I want to give a shout out to Nick Boyd, because he did, and not just Nick Boyd, Trey too. A few of them did tune in to our episode with Coach Jacobs. So shout out to them for keeping up with our coverage of FAU. That was pretty cool to see, I will say. And so we're winding down here, though, on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Only 5 minutes to go. I wanted to touch on Birmingham Southern baseball, a D3 team out of Alabama. They're making a run right now. They're well on their way to a College World Series in D3. They're let's see, how many more games do they have here? Let's see. So they're the regional champions. So they're going to super regionals right now. If they get past super regionals, they go to the College World Series. If they get to that point, they will be playing for a school that no longer exists. Birmingham Southern College is ceasing operations at the end of May. And this is a school that was D1 in 2004. That's how long they were D1. They played their baseball team. Actually, they played in an Athens regional. They won one game. They lost two. They didn't make it out. But they were a D1 baseball program that was really making some noise 20 years ago. But still, and now they're losing. They're losing all their funding pretty much because 40% of their average attendance was athletes. And that's what I want to talk about with this before we get out of here is these, we all talk about the effects of NIL on FAU or these bigger programs, but NIL at the NIAI level, the D3, a little less D2, but D3 and lower level, a lot of these schools, they rely on athletics. They have all these programs like Steven was talking about before with the NIL, with the Title IX, is if they have a women's program or if they have a men's program for basketball, they have to have a women's and so on. So they have all these different teams and they're smaller schools. And so you have to fill out all these teams. And then before you know it, your enrollment is 40% athletes. And so now with NIL and everything, these players are leaving. And what I've noticed is I did a little quick Google myself. In 2020, only six, but when 2020 first started, the poll was done in January. So really 2019, 6 schools shut down, whether it was due to financial, merging, whatever. In 2024, that number is up to 19, with 15 of those all being financial reasons. And 30 total in the past 2 years, these small schools have now shut down. And so with NIL and these players, hopping from D3 to D3 even to go get $10,000 or $5,000 or whatever they're offering at that level, it's really hurting these colleges that have been around for Birmingham Southern's been around for like 150 years, and now they're ceasing operations because their majority of revenue is entering the portal. So I'm rooting for this baseball team to make some noise and kind of stick it to the man a little bit. But I'm very interested to see over the next couple of years and short future, really, how these small schools where athletics is a driving force continues to exist, really, because with the portal and everything, it's hard. You're not having these big NIL funds for these players. And so they're going to go leave and try to make the best opportunity. And so you don't want to, SHIT on that player, but it's like, man, like, how do they keep these schools running at that level? So it's just something to keep an eye on. I know you guys saw Birmingham Southern. You guys rooting for him? Christian, are we making a trip to Birmingham for the Super Regional or wherever the heck it is? I think that face says yes. I think we're gonna go.
I'd rather go there than Clearwater tomorrow, personally, because I want to be a part of history. Like, honestly, if these guys win, I low-key might buy a T-shirt just because that'll be like your hat that went viral on Twitter.
Yeah, Missouri Valley Conference, baby.
Yep, the Missouri Valley Conference. That'll be worth something one day. So we should low-key all get merch if they win and support.
Who left the Missouri Valley? It was like Green Bay or
Missouri
something.
State. It was Missouri State, and so the reason the conference is dying and that hat is going to be worth some money. I'm sorry to the Drake fan who I said I was going to sell that hat to. I'm not sure if I can, because Missouri State is the last school in Missouri in that conference, and so now there's no more Missouri teams. Why is it called the Missouri Valley Conference? So it'll be called the Valley Conference in the next 2 years, and my hat will be worth something. I'm telling you.
Cool. Yeah, you got to wear that.
I know. I got to rock it. Hey, we're winding down, though. Almost done here. We actually are out of time here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. So we're going to close down for the night. We'll be back tomorrow talking some pro sports tomorrow, hopefully some MLB with our guy Tobey. So thank you guys for tuning into our FAU edition of the show tonight. Roll Birmingham Southern, baby. We're fans here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. We'll catch you guys tomorrow night. Christian, Drew, Tobey, and me will all be here, hopefully. Thank you guys. As usual, shout out to FAU Softball, the fans, parents. It was a great time covering this team this past couple of weeks. So we'll see you guys next over the summer covering some FAU Softball as well, and next season. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. For Christian, Drew, I'm Robbie. We'll see you tomorrow.